Levi Comstock. I just wanted to interview and invite Dana and Canna here. This is a good friend of mine for probably about 8 years now I've known you. So I just kind of wanted to know who you are, where you came from, and what you're doing in your life, and just go through some questions. So I'm just very excited to have you, and thank you for your time today. So,
thank you very much, Levi, for inviting me. Like Levi said, my name is Dana Nkana, and I came to this country a few years ago, and I came from Nigeria, and I actually walked into this country with about $82 in my pocket.
$82?
Yes.
That's awesome.
And so when I came here, I had to go to college and took English as a second language, and it was very difficult, trying to understand the classes you're taking and trying to understand the language and understanding the culture. As a human being, I'll tell you, I was overwhelmed, and at some point I called my mother and I was crying like a little baby. I told her I was coming home.
Was she still in Nigeria?
She came here with me, and she left. And so she left. She didn't even tell me the day she was leaving, and because she didn't want me to go back. So I stayed here, and I decided I wanted to make something for myself, and I started studying and understanding the culture, understanding the language, and speaking to people and coming out of my shell.
How old were you when this happened?
I was 18 years old.
18. Did you have any English before this?
Very little. We speak broken English. They call it broken English. And so I had a little bit of it, and so I had to take English as a second language to be able to understand the proper English.
Wow. So at 18 years old, you came here with $82 in your pocket?
Exactly.
And where did you move to first?
Well, I came here straight to Illinois, Peoria, Illinois to be exact.
Okay.
And I went to Illinois Central College. And I spent it was supposed to be 2 years, and I spent about a year and a half there finishing that program.
Were you working at the same time too? Or?
And only for my brother. My brother had a business at the time, a video production company. And the deal was that I help him, and then I get some subsidy to pay for my school.
Was that pretty hard working for your brother?
Oh, it was very difficult because you have to try to, the thing you have to understand about our culture is if somebody is a year older than you, 10 years older than you, you respect them.
Right.
And so you have to put your best foot forward, trying to impress them. And that's exactly what I did the entire time I was with my brother. And there were times that I would be working till 3 a.m, just to make sure that I impress him.
What exactly did you do for him?
Basically what we were converting old home movies, the reel-to-reel, all this stuff. I was converting those to movies, and also dubbing music to it in the background. And back in those days, those were a big deal. People had old reels, home movies, and so that's what I was doing. And I was always in the background, and because I couldn't really communicate well, so I didn't get to the reception or talk to people. That would have been an embarrassment to me.
How long have you been here?
My brother has been here since my brother is a lot older than me, so when he left, I was still a baby.
Okay.
So he was here for a long time. He got married, and his wife is a physician, and so he got into real estate and other businesses, and video production was one of the.
What was that culture shock like, just coming to America from where you came from?
It was nothing that you see on TV. It was just shocking that things were different. The way we were brought up was that in America, everybody's rich and you never see poor things. So I was shocked. I saw some good, the bad, and the ugly. So it was totally different from what I was prepared for.
Is there anything you wish you would have known then? That's something that would have really helped you?
Actually, I wouldn't change anything, because if I do, I think it would make me a lazy person. The situation that I found myself as far as trying to understand the English language, trying to understand the culture, I think it really worked, because sometimes the unknown can actually make you a better person.
Very much.
So, yes. Exactly.
So you don't see the blessing till later sometimes.
Exactly. And just to piggyback on what you just said there, so I grew up from a family I was second to last of 11, same mother, same father, but my dad actually married 5 wives all at the same time.
Oh, wow.
So I never really had any hope that I will go to become anything.
What did your father do?
My father was in the military. He was a retired colonel in the military. He never had a formal education except to grade, I think, 6th grade. But he was one of those dedicated person, and I take my part of my dedication from him. He was very dedicated. He was the highest educated person in his family with 6th grade.
Oh, wow.
And so he walked from the village to meet with the British soldiers and joined the military. And they trained him from there on to where he became one of the richest people in the village, where I came from, the village that you've been helping us with. And so he's very well respected, but like I said, he married 5 wives. So as you can see, there's so many children involved. So I never thought, that I would be anywhere past where I am.
Did you grow up knowing all the different moms, or?
Oh, yes, I did. There were always like a rotation where my mom would go, because being in the military, you were in the military, so you know how it works. My dad was always posted to different states, and so he'll be there, and then different mom will go there, and then we switch, another mom's come. So my place was always in the village. So that's why, of course, as you can see, my interest is in the village of Mbiokborotu, because I grew up there.
What made you want to leave, mostly?
I never wanted to leave.
Never wanted to.
I never thought that I would leave.
Right.
So very good question. So here's the reason why I left. My brother that I mentioned to you invited my sister to bring my mother for a visit here to the U.S.
Right.
So when my sister took my mother to the embassy and went through all that process, they denied her the visa.
Oh, wow.
And so, long story short, there was no other alternative. So my sister suggested, why don't you ask him? I just finished high school. And said, why don't you ask him? As I said, I didn't speak English, so I never even thought of leaving the village. The village was my place.
Right.
And so when my brother asked, and he said, okay, well, let's prepare, and we went to the embassy. Of course, we went to the embassy. When God wanted things to happen, it just happened. We walked up there, we walked to we sat there, we watched the interaction between the lady trying to give other people visas, and in my way, I thought she was rude. So I thought, we have no chance.
Right.
And so we started praying. We said, we hope we don't go to her, we hope we don't go to her. Lo and behold, she called us.
Right.
And so we walked up there, and first thing she asked my mom, are you going to U.S.? Said, yes. With your son? Yeah. Stamped the visa. Just like that.
No questions
There
asked.
was nothing asked.
They'd already denied your sister.
They denied my sister. It was straightforward. It was a God thing.
Wow.
And so...
Was that pretty uncommon at the time, too, to just be like, get straight in like that?
No, when you go there, they drill you, and even people that were married, they would drill them, show me your marriage certificate, all these things. But for that particular time, for me, was totally a God thing.
That's amazing.
So it was meant to be.
Was it scary leaving all your friends and everything you knew?
It was. I came here, I was trying to put face, just act like I was tough and all this stuff. So, but it wasn't until actually I stepped foot in the college that I really realized that I wasn't what I thought I was.
Right.
I was very scared. And like I said, I came back, I told my mom, I said, I'm going back with you. And she said, no, you're not going. She said to me, do you want to go back to the village, or you want to be here and do something for yourself? And I said, I'm going back to the village. And like I mentioned, the day she left this country, I was still sleeping.
Oh, wow.
And when I woke up, she was gone. I was crying like a baby. And when I finally got over that, I dusted myself up. And that first semester, I was on the dean's list. And I had an English teacher that was wonderful. God bless her. She passed away many years ago. She invited me to her house and coached me for free.
Oh, wow.
And
that's amazing.
So that's why even today I am coaching people.
When you are in school and you're learning English, so you're working twice as hard as the average student.
Exactly.
Trying to learn the language and the curriculum. That's pretty amazing you got to do both of those things.
Yes, exactly. I wish I remember I would have brought you my cassette tape. You're too young. You probably don't even know.
Oh, I know what cassette tapes are.
So
That's all we had.
she probably wouldn't know. I had this cassette tape, that I recorded my lectures, and I took permission from my instructor to record. I will go over. So when everybody else is playing, having fun, I am listening to all these lectures. I will stop it and I will ask my brother, what did they just say there? Because I don't, some slang,
Right.
and I don't understand. Within the class itself, it might sound funny now, but it wasn't. In the class, they're making all these American jokes. I'm like, ha, ha, ha. I'm laughing like I don't understand.
But you're not sure?
I have no idea what they're saying. They could have cussed me out. I'm just sitting there not understanding. But
don't worry. I even spoke English growing up, and I still felt like that sometimes.
I was just trying to fit in.
Right.
But at some point, I finally said, I really need to do this. And like I said, that first semester, I was on Dean's list. The second semester, I was on the president's list. And of course, up to now, I just finished my doctorate. So I've been in school for a long time.
That's amazing. What was your original degree you got?
Oh, so I have a bachelor's degree in communication with emphasis in journalism. And then my second degree is a master in law. And so I have a law degree. And then I have another master's in communication, information system, computers.
Why'd you choose these degrees? Why'd you choose law?
Very good question. Well, law, for example, I always wanted to do law or medicine. Okay. And the reason, let me backtrack a little bit as far as communication is concerned. Remember that respect I told you, when people are older than you tend to respect them?
Yes, sir.
My brother did communication. I never wanted to do communication. I did it because I wanted to respect my brother.
And you're working for him.
I'm working for him. So I went and did communication just for that. It was after I finished that communication degree, and I said to of course, I started becoming a little bit Americanized and learning the culture. I'm becoming my own person. So I'm like, I need my own thing.
Did you start making friends and whatnot at college? And
yes, I made friends. Majority of my friends were not from college. They were from church.
Okay.
Because I never had time to socialize.
So you were raised a Christian over in Africa as well?
Yes, I was raised Christian, but not a Seventh-day Adventist.
Okay.
So I became an Adventist when I came here. My brother was an Adventist.
Is Christianity a common thing over in Nigeria?
In the eastern part of the southeastern part of the country, yes. Predominantly Muslim in the north. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So it's like half and half.
Do they get along pretty well for the most part?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Most part, no. But yes, we try to pretend we do, but no. There was a time not too long ago when in the northern part of the country that the Muslim people started physically fighting the Christians that had businesses in that area.
Culturally, they're very competitive. A lot of Islamic cultures are very competitive with any non-Muslim local business or anything.
Yes, they are.
Even in South Africa, I know when I was training there, that was something they really had to deal with, was the conflict between Christians and Muslims coming to class, and who they're always trying to control industries. So.
Yes. So it's something that has been and is still ongoing as we speak. Yes.
Wow. Well, that's exciting. So, how long you went to 4 years of school initially?
Yes. So I went 4 years. Actually, it was less than 4 because my first 2 years was supposed to be. It was supposed to be 2 years. I finished it in a year and a half, and then I proceeded to a 4-year university. And that was another, I finished that in another year and a half. And then I did my doctorate, my master's in law, that one. During that time, my dad passed away, so I had to go back home to Nigeria. And unfortunately, the embassy would not let me back in. And so I ended up staying in Nigeria 2 weeks and 2 days to be exact. And until I was able to get back in, all my senators, Dick Durbin, all those people that you've heard about, they wrote to the embassy, this is our student, we want him back. No, they didn't. So it was a little bit disappointing to me. And like I said, during that time I was doing law. And when I came back, I said, the system has failed me. That I came to this country legally and then they wouldn't let me back in. So I wasn't even going to complete that degree. My wife said to me, I've never seen you start anything without finishing. So I told her, I said, okay, I'll just go and finish the degree, but I will never practice law. I've been very disappointed.
Welcome to America, where lawyers ruin everything.
So that's why you will never see me even talking about practicing law.
You must have learned a lot of amazing, detailed things that probably helped you in business later, though.
Yes, I did. I did a lot. So as a matter of fact, during that business time when I was working with my brother, at some point my brother actually left the business and left it for me. And so I was running the business. And until I got stuck in Africa, so when I couldn't come back, the business was sold and closed down.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So yes, we had that. So I had that business.
Wow. So, and then where, after your law degree, how old were you by the time you got your law degree?
When I got that, I was, I think I was about maybe 28.
Were you still working for your brother prior to that?
No, not anymore. He moved on, and I decided to take the business. So I was on my own at the time. Yes.
What was that like?
Oh, it was different. Being on your own, trying to do your own thing, and yes, so it was totally different.
What year was this approximately?
We're talking about 98.
Okay, the year I graduated high school.
Yeah, 98.
What was that like, being from Africa and coming here and then running a business and speaking a new language? You've educated yourself, and now you're interacting with customers. Did you have any major challenges, or were people pretty accepting of that? Or
people were actually very accepting. And one thing that I found out from most Americans that I've interacted with is, as much as we have problem with people not trusting somebody my kind, but once they hear this accent and they actually take interest,
right?
They want to listen to you more.
It's not a fake accent, is it?
What?
It's not a fake accent.
No, this is real.
Okay.
If I can change anything else in my life, I will change everything except the accent, because
right?
That's what makes me special.
That's awesome.
And so I even back in Illinois, I was teaching at the university. I had one of my students' mom kept my recording. When I left a message, she said, "I love your accent so much, I didn't want to erase it." So I will never get rid of my accent. But it was challenging, but at the same time, being here, doing a business was really nice, because you get to see people, you get to know people, and people were very, very accepting, more than what I would have imagined. So,
was it surprising what you learned operating a business versus going to school? Just you got exposed to so much so quickly.
Yes, it was because the other thing that really helped me too is when I went back to do my master's in information system, we did a lot of business related things and how to set up those. So it really helped me to understand the business dynamic very much, as far as taking my real life experience and putting it together. So that really set me up. And I'm always been looking at regenerating a business, and right. I don't know which.
That's exciting, isn't it? Yeah, that's the one thing I love about my country. One of the big things is the freedom to create what you want to.
Exactly.
So you got your law degree and you were operating the record studio. Where did it lead from there?
So what happened with that is, when I went back to see when my dad passed away, and that was closed down.
Right.
Because
you had to, because you were, how long were you back in Africa?
I was there 2 years and 2 weeks to be exact. Okay. 2 years and 2 weeks.
That's a long ways away from the company.
Exactly. So that was closed down. And so I had to come back. And when I came back, of course, they repossessed my car that I had at the time. I bought a brand new car. And so when I finally came back after 2 years, and I called the company, I said, "Hey, I'm back. I want to see how I can get my car back." They said, "Oh, by the way, we sold the car and you still owe us some money."
Oh.
And so first thing I did was reach out to an attorney. I said, "I want to file a bankruptcy." And he said to me, and I could, "If I were you, I work my butt off and pay it off."
Right.
I went to work.
Was that good advice?
The best advice anybody has ever given me. I took 3 jobs, paid off everything, and I never felt so good.
That's awesome.
Yes.
The personal pride.
Yes.
That's amazing. And so you came back. You didn't have a business. Where did you work?
So when I came back, I started looking for work, and I worked for the juvenile detention center, and in Peoria, Illinois. So I got a job there because of my legal background. So,
What'd you do for them?
I did some administrative work and basically doing some managing the daily routine, what goes on, supervising workers and people that I am working with, the people directly. So supervising that, and then did that for a while, and then I went to work with youth that are basically lost. When people that I work for TriCounty Urban League. This was a place that children that are no longer in school and they have no other avenue. If they fail, they're done. Okay. And so I spend my time training, teaching those kids.
And what got you into that?
What got me into that was I wanted to use myself as showing these people that you can come from a poor family. You cannot use that as an excuse to be where you are.
And what a good example.
Exactly. You can pull yourself up and move out of that.
Do you feel like you connected with some of them?
Yes, I did, and I will tell you this story. So one day, when I was teaching there, I used to tell them, and in a way I was joking, but indirectly I was serious. And I told them, I said, if you ever see me on the street driving my nice car, and you are still where you are, don't even wave at me. And one day I pulled into a bank in my Mercedes, and this kid ran out of her car, and she said to me, Mr. Nakan, guess what? I'm going to college. Oh, wow. She came and gave me a big hug.
That's amazing. And you've met her in the juvenile detention?
Exactly. So wow. That gave me, this feeling that you can rescue people.
That's awesome.
And that's why I mentioned to you before, one of my things in the future, if I can ever do it, is to write some book for motivational to people to say, you don't have to be where you are. You can move on. You can do something for yourself. All you need to do is just do it and have that determination.
And now you do have a book, correct?
I got my dissertation that I published that I showed you there. Yes, that one I want to.
You're gonna publish it?
I want to use. I want to take the pieces of it and make some training manual out of it. But I'm still looking for a way of writing. I'm going to write a book that is motivational to people.
That's right.
And that could give them a booster in life.
Well, that's important, especially from a perspective of a lot of motivational speakers you hear, and from what I've seen, very wealthy people that probably came from very wealthy people. Yeah. So it's not like they're an example of what you can be. They're just an example of what you can have if your dad gave you something.
Exactly.
So it's awesome. I think that's an amazing example.
I've never had anything handed down to me. So.
Well, that's probably why you are who you are. What did you do so now you went from the juvenile detention to where you started working with the children, and what was the name of that organization?
That organization was TriCounty Urban League.
And that was still in Peoria?
Peoria, Illinois. Yeah, TriCounty Urban League. So, and it was an organization that takes kids from the street, kids that are expelled, kids that have just come out of jail, and that means they have no other options. And if they fail, they're done.
Okay. And are they in a home of some sort?
They're in the home. Some of them were with foster parents. Some of them were in the business that we operated was right smack down in the middle of the ghetto.
Okay.
So.
And did you kind of help manage their life, like where they lived and how they ate and
exactly.
school? And did you get them educational opportunities, like
exactly.
high school and stuff?
Yes, I did. And I had some of them get to college. There was one girl that I helped, and she actually got into Illinois Central College. And it just gives you this feeling that you've been able to achieve something. And for me, it's not about me, it's them. Helping somebody move from where they are to the next place. That's what gives me satisfaction.
That's really amazing. From there, now you're 28 years old approximately. Mm-hmm. You're working with kids. You have your second degree. Mm-hmm. And then where did you go from there?
I went back to school.
Okay.
School is
What was your desire for school?
So what happened is, it seems like there were two things that I always wanted to do. I wanted to either go to law school or go to medical school. And so when I did, and I went to law school, of course, like I said, I didn't.
You learned how terrible our legal system is.
Yeah, so I didn't want to practice.
Maybe you should have, and you could have fixed it.
Maybe it's too late now.
I should hire you as my attorney from now on.
But anyway, so I left that aside, and I decided, well, at the time, everything was picking up into computers and all this stuff. I said, okay, maybe this is what I need to do. And so I went back. I just had a fascination for the internet and computers. And so I went back because the main reason behind me doing the information system was more of a personal thing. The first day I walked into my brother's office, he had this computer sitting there. They just had it. Nobody knew what to do with it. I had no idea. I just came from the village over here. I had no idea what a computer was. So this kept reflecting back to my memory. I said, I want to rescue that thing. I want to get into that thing to understand more. So that's why I went back to do computer.
That's awesome.
And so I went back and did my master's.
And now you probably had a pretty good understanding of them, right? Correct? From all your education and working in your studio that you worked with your brother.
Yes. So I really got a very good grasp of it. And I mean, now that I'm teaching at the university, when I walk into my classroom, my classroom is pretty much computerized. I push something, the windows blind comes down, and everything I do is technology. I just walk into my classroom. I don't have to carry anything.
Because now you're a professor at Colorado Mesa University, correct?
Yes.
And what classes do you teach?
I teach business law, and also I teach computer science.
Awesome.
I teach high-level classes.
That's
and I have 460, and it's for seniors.
How long was it another 4 years you were stuck in school when you went back for computer information?
No, I actually finished that in 2 years.
Okay.
Yes, I finished that in 2 years. I completed that, yes.
And where were you working during that? Were you still working at the Urban League?
No, during that time, I was actually teaching at the college that I graduated from.
That's nice.
Yes. So I went back to teach at the college that I graduated from.
What brought you here to Colorado?
So actually, very good question. When I came to Colorado, I actually had admission to go to medical school.
Okay.
We're going around circle, right? So I always had that in my background. So I wanted to go to medical school. So we had admission to go to medical school.
How old were you at this point?
At that time, I was about 32.
Okay.
So I resigned from teaching. And we started selling everything. We sold a house.
And you're saying we now, you and your wife?
Oh, my wife, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And we, at this time, were married.
How old were you when you met her?
We were 29.
Okay.
And so we got 2 children at this time, Zira and Zach, And so we sold everything and decided, well, we were going to go. And of course, I was going to go out of the country. We were going to go to the island, for 2 years and then come back another 2 years.
What island?
That's St. Kitts and Nevis. That's where my school was.
All right.
And so we were going to do that 2 years and then back here 2 years and then do my rotations and all this stuff. So towards, as we're getting close to leaving, my wife started having cold feet because we had a lot of Muslim people in that area, and she has a Muslim background.
Correct.
And so she started throwing out some concerns. So one of our friends said, "Why don't you guys?" We had about 6 months before this happened. Why don't you guys just move to Colorado here and spend some time before you go out?
Okay.
And so we said, "Sure, we'll come to Colorado." So we came here, sold everything. We just drove in a van and showed up here.
Right.
And I was looking for a job, and
you have young kids.
Yes, and we put our kids in school. I didn't, we paid their school fees.
What year was that?
This was 2005.
Okay, that was
2005.
That was a year before I moved back home when I got out of the Marine Corps.
Yes, so 2005 we pulled into this town, and I had somebody that said, "Okay, Halliburton is hiring." So, long story short, it wasn't easy, but finally got a call. I started working there.
For Halliburton?
Yes, I wanted to work there for like less than 6 months or so, then go to medical school. And so while I was there, I really enjoyed because as soon as I walked in there, they said, "Well, every department wanted me," and I said, "Wow,
that's a different environment going from Illinois to Grand Junction, Colorado."
I'm like, this is nice. So, and I started working, and I said, well, I'm just going to do this for like 6 months. And so before 6 months, they asked me, we want to send you to training to become a petroleum engineer. I'm like, oh. So I sent information to my school, to the medical school. I said, I'm not coming this next semester. I'll do the following. They said, well, you will not get your deposit back. I said, that's fine. And so I started there 14 years later. I never went to medical school.
But now you ended up being a petroleum engineer
So I became a.
So now you were what was your first degree?
Communication.
Communications. Then you ended up computer information systems.
Yes. Then I went into law, and then became a petroleum engineer, and then just recently got my doctorate in management and leadership.
That's amazing. What a journey. And you worked 14 years at Halliburton, and what did you generally, because I remember you used to fly to Alaska and whatnot quite a bit.
Yes. So what I did was, when I started, they trained me as a petroleum engineer, but I really never had the opportunity to, I wouldn't say opportunity, I didn't really walk out in the field, because most people, when you come back, you have to walk out in the field. But they saw my potential that I could do better things than just be sitting there monitoring wells and all the stuff.
You also don't look like you would enjoy the weather in Alaska very much in the winter.
I wouldn't have.
I wouldn't either. I like it more.
I wouldn't have. So they started training me into becoming a manager. So I joined the management team. So I became one of the managers, and then they put me in charge of all the service quality. And that means I have to go meet with our customers and make sure that they're satisfied with what we provided them.
And this was all over.
This is all over. So at one time, I covered Grand Junction, Colorado, Utah, Vernal, Utah, Farmington, New Mexico, and Rock Springs, Wyoming.
And your customers are major oil field companies.
Exactly. And so I visited with all those places, and I spent a lot of time traveling. I spent sometimes 6 months in Houston, back and forth. Of course, I've been to Alaska and North Dakota.
What was that like dealing with? I mean, that's a pretty high level job when you're interacting with, I'm sure it's on billion-dollar contracts or multi-billion-dollar contracts. And what was that like, a transition into that?
Well, what that really does is it makes you become humble. As in my case, I was very humble that I can be entrusted in this type of position. And so I had to really humble myself and do the best I can. And once you get to be humble and people see that, and they really feel drawn to you, and they're very open to work with you. And so I've never had any problem with all those interaction, the companies, all the big shots that I dealt with. Everybody, even in Houston, I walked into the CEO's office, like, come on in, very nice.
I love your perspective on humbleness, though, because I think humbleness is one of the most attractive qualities a human can have.
Yes, you have to be humble. For me, humbleness is very, very important. You cannot, you have to crawl before you learn how to walk. And so I give respect where respect is due. And so I'm always very humble. And I think that's really what helped me in everything that I do.
That's a really good lesson.
Yes.
So 14 years, and then it was a few years ago that Halliburton kind of shut down their whole operation here.
Yes.
And what did that leave you doing?
So what happened with that is, after 14 years, everything ended, and as soon as that ended, I got another job immediately with another small outfit out in the Beck.
Thank you, Colorado, for screwing his job.
Yes. So that didn't last long because things started going bad as far as the oil and gas.
They were losing all their permits, right?
Yes.
Nobody could even get a permit.
Exactly.
Okay.
So because of that, they started laying people off. So I was one of them. They just couldn't support my position.
Which I remember you were one of the last to get laid off, so you must have been pretty valuable to him.
Yes.
I was out there sometimes doing some of the little work, and
Exactly.
I was always, everybody was gone, but I kept seeing you there. So.
Exactly. So basically, the way we were explaining that, not in a very humble way, was we started originally cutting the fat, and then we started cutting the meat. and then we started getting in the bonds, and I was the bond.
Nice.
So yes, that ended, and then when that ended, and then of course I got the other job, and then of course Colorado and like oil and gas, everything ended. So that's when I actually decided I'm going to take a good time and finish my doctorate. And so I used last year, which I completed. And
that's amazing, because that was a stressful time. And I mean, I remember we have other friends that have been laid off from Halliburton and other companies.
Yes.
And this valley's so small. That's a big impact when a company like that,
yes.
all the families are disrupted. I mean, I know other friends that worked hard for years, and all of a sudden they're on the street with nothing to do, don't know direction. And it's funny, everybody I know has become a success. And same with you, and you ended up going back to school again.
Yes.
Is that kind of your comfort zone, sort of? You enjoy like educating yourself for your new direction in life, or?
Exactly. I really enjoy school, and I still remember my daughter. She told me, she's like, my daughter said to me when she started speaking, she said, "Daddy, you're a professional student."
Yeah.
I said, "Yes, I am."
Well, now your daughter is too now, right? She just got into med school.
Yes, my daughter is in medical school. So, Levi, here's one key to why I hang around school and enjoy school. That's probably will be another podcast.
Right.
I never thought that I would graduate from high school. The day that I graduated from high school was a surprise, quite unlike here.
How old were you when you did?
I was 17 and a half.
Awesome. Right before you came here?
Yes, before I came here. I was out of high school for probably a few months before I came here.
Did that prepare you, minus the language, for your school here?
No. Here's the thing. When I went to school, the entire time that I was in school, I spent more time being in trouble than anything else. Have you seen these huge palm trees in Africa? Not the decorative palm trees you see in Florida and California. Not those. I'm talking about real big palm trees.
I'm not sure.
We use that as a punishment in Africa. When you're bad, that's one of the punishment. You have to use a shovel to dig that down.
Okay.
Yes.
You have to dig the roots out?
You have to dig it and make it fall down.
Oh.
Those were the punishments. So I've done a few of those.
Right.
I was always in trouble. I'm not proud to say it. I've slapped a few teachers.
They say if you're not going to be smart, you better be strong.
Exactly.
So that's a good.
I got expelled a few times, and I slapped a few teachers. Because So,
that's probably my favorite part of the.
Yes.
I had a few I wanted to slap, but I never did.
I did. I actually physically did slap a few. Right. And so my dad wanted to teach me a lesson, pull me out. I was going to a boarding school where everything is done for you except you go to school.
And that's where you went from, the high school where you were in trouble?
Yes. So he took me out of that high school and put me in the village.
What do you think the reason for your trouble was? Were you lonely?
I just don't feel like, I felt very insignificant because like I said, I was totally at the bottom. And
but when you were there, did you feel like, at that age, you probably didn't recognize what was causing your problems, did you?
Well, see, looking back now, I know what I think it was my problem. Coming from a parent that they have so many children, and you don't expect that you will ever amount to anything.
Right.
And by the time I'm done, my dad's money is exhausted, so I wouldn't have any. So why?
How many siblings was there?
Oh my goodness! I came from, like I said, 11. Just my mom.
Just your mom.
Real brothers.
But there's 4
and
others.
then the other one, the other one had I think 7, 6, and how many? 5. Sometimes I go there. They said that's your brother, and so I'm like, okay, which one?
Right.
So I'm telling, we have a client.
And approximately how large was the village that had all your family?
Our village is about 10,000 now.
So that's a lot of family to have in a village that small.
Oh yes, yeah, it's about 10,000. So my part of my problem was I never thought that I would go any further than where I was. So I'm just like, why even bother?
What changed that for you?
What changed that was coming here. Because
proving to yourself you could get results.
Exactly. Remember when I came here, it was a mistake. I never thought I would.
Right.
So there was nothing for me. And so coming here, I'm like, oh, wow. And so I looked at the opportunity. Then I got to a point where I said, I don't want you to help me. Just show me the door. I'll open it myself.
That's awesome.
So that's all I've been doing. Just show me the door. I'll bust open it. I don't need help from there once you show me where the door is. So I got to where I have more determination. I become very confident in what I do and understanding that you can do anything if you really set your mind to it. And that's what catapulted me to where I am today.
That's a really good lesson.
Yes.
So you progressed through multiple jobs, 5 degrees technically, right?
Yes.
And now you have your doctorates, you're in business.
Yes.
And you're teaching at Colorado Mesa. But now you're going back to start something back in Africa where you came from, and you've been working on this for how long?
I've been working on this for, I would say, all my life, because since, when I say all my life, since I would say, well, probably the last 15 years. The last 15 years, as you remember when I first approached you about my, plan, and I've been looking for, how do I sustain these people? Every year I go back and I'll bring people out, sometimes in a football field, give them food. Sometimes I walked around the village, door to door. We knocked on doors. If nobody's home, we dropped the food. And then I finally started thinking to myself, how long do you continue to do this? Let's find a way to teach these people how to fish rather than here's your fish.
Amen.
Let's start teaching them. And so that's been going in my mind. But the only problem with that is I never have enough funding to be able to do that, and never really had a very solid idea of what I want to do. But right now, as you know, we're working on a proposal on so many things, different ideas, which we're going to present to you at some point so that you can see.
We should probably preference this. So you went back to your village and you started actually helping with medical and food, which is kind of, those are my two passions, because I grew up, I've been on mission trips that were religious based, and I've been where we built orphanages and churches and stuff. And my big belief is that why would you tell them about God if you can't feed them and make sure they're healthy? So,
exactly.
And when I saw you spending your own time and money, and you were doing it very quietly,
yes.
You weren't telling anyone, you never were begging for money, you were never looking for handouts from anybody, yes. And you were out working. And how many, like the last big medical one, I mean, I saw how many people were walking from all over. You were taking care of thousands of people.
Yes,
basically.
we had we physically saw 2,500 people. Those are the ones that we attended to. We turned away.
And that was for medical purposes.
Medical purposes.
How many doctors did you have there doing that?
We had about probably maybe 5 doctors.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah, we had 5 doctors, and that's it. So we had hernia repair. We had bilateral hernia, that's double hernia, and we did all those stuff all in the open. We built a medical clinic. And so we have the clinic. Of course, it's not as what you will have here. There's no theater. We just make do. Everything is just mobile. We brought it in. And get this, I have to stand by and go into the theater every now and then to check and see where the doctors are as far as the operation, so that I could see how much gas we have in the generator. So we coordinate that to make sure that we can find a good stopping point, just like she did here. So
you don't run out of electricity halfway through a surgery.
Exactly. You don't run out of gas, in the middle of, so we do that and then coordinate everything. And it has been a big help from people like yourself that support those kind of mission to make it successful. So we successfully saw 2,500 people.
That was like 2019?
2018.
2018.
Yes, 2018. And so we.
I remember you brought antibiotics and medication, 5 doctors. Yes. You did 2,500 surgeries approximately, or operations of some sort.
Yes.
And now you've also done quite a bit since then with food and everything else.
Exactly. We've done food. We've recently, the school was almost about to collapse, and we had to. I paid my architect to go down there and dig the entire foundation around the entire school, rebuild it.
Oh, that's awesome.
And they just finished that. And
is that by those stairs too that I saw?
Exactly. That's one of the ones that I sent to you. So they rebuild that and make sure that it's fine for those kids. And we also changed gave them brand new 2 pairs uniforms each. That was about a year ago, and we're actually going to be adding an additional one, because of course that's all they have. They wash it by hand, and so we want to add 2 more pairs of those. and hopefully some shoes along with that too.
That's amazing. And you're going to be going back over in December.
Yes, I will be there in December. By the grace of God, I've already purchased my ticket, and I will be leaving here December 16 and returning on January 7.
Okay, that's
Yes.
amazing.
Yes.
And wow, I just have one question, because I see like you came from poverty, you got to America, you became educated, then you became successful. You basically put your money where your mouth is, and then you ended up going back. And I've seen people, and I mean, I didn't grow up in Africa, but I've seen people in poverty in multiple countries. I've been to about 25, 26 countries now, and I've seen really poor people. I've seen successful people that came from nothing. I've seen rich people that came from something. And one thing that always surprises me is some people either copy that poverty and they copy the same trends, so they end up in the same poverty. Other people learn how to get out of it, but they get as far away as possible. And then other people get out of poverty, educate themselves, become successful, and they come back to give back into it. And that's pretty uncommon. And that's kind of what one of the big things that impressed me with you is that you were spending your own time and money with your own success. And nobody ever would have judged you had you just said, well, it's more for me and my family. But you always took what was more for you and gave back. Why? What brought you your passion, or gave you the passion to give back to your people?
So thank you so much for that question. So there's so much that made that happen. So one summer, I had to go to spend time with my uncle, and so I could get some job and buy some stuff and be ready for school. And I stayed with my uncle. He had one bedroom, had 2 children, and they peed everywhere. This doesn't sound very inviting. It was terrible.
That's stressful.
Yes. Fast forward, I found somebody that wanted to start a new business, doing chicken rotisserie, and this was a custom officer. He just stole that machine and started a little bit business. I happened to be available for summer. And so I decided I wanted to do that. And so I went and helped him with the business. It was just a one-room thing. They had a glass like this, and the machine faces the street.
And what did the machine do exactly?
Pardon me?
What was the machine doing?
Oh, the machine is rotating chicken.
Oh, okay.
So you have chicken. And so I was working on that, and it's just one room, and then they had a big refrigerator, not refrigerator, but freezer.
Okay.
Like this. I slept on top of the freezer at night.
And how old were you there?
I was at that time I was 16 years old, and so I slept on top of that deep freezer while I'm doing that thing.
And you're still in high school?
Yes, I'm still in high school.
You're getting in trouble, but you're still in school. You're digging up palm trees, working in the chicken plant, sleeping on a freezer.
There you go.
And you weren't sure if you wanted to come to America.
No,
That's amazing. I love that.
That wasn't even in the.
That's because happiness isn't a place.
Exactly. That
That's
wasn't
awesome.
even in the picture.
That's
So after doing all that and then coming here, so I reflected back that there might be somebody like me that is sleeping on the top of a deep freezer, looking for work, that I want to use what I can get to reach to those people. And that's why I've been looking for, how do I teach these people to fish rather than give them fish?
Right.
And so, yes, that was my motivator, remembering my past of being poor, sleeping on that deep freezer. Oh, here's another thing. During that time that I was with my uncle, I got lice in my hair. Okay, and
At 16 years old?
Yes, got lice in my hair. And when you go to get a haircut, back then in Nigeria, when you go to get a haircut, if you have a lice in your hair, they have a sign. Your haircut is more because you have
pay
lice.
more.
Yes.
Right.
So I just barely had enough money to get a haircut, a regular haircut. And I walked up there and sat on the chair, and the guy started combing my hair and all this stuff, and he said, "You have lice." I said, "No, I don't." I knew I had lice.
Right.
And I said, "No, I don't." And he said, "Here." He grabbed it and showed it to me. By then, he already started one side.
Oh, no.
And so he said, "You're going to pay this much." I didn't have it. And he said, "Well, your haircut is done." I walked like a madman with one side.
So you got one side cut?
I got one side shave, and I walked around like that until I could raise money to do
Cut
the
to the
other
side.
side. So if somebody ever said to you they're suffering, they've seen this, I've seen more.
Right.
So I've been there, done that. Those are the kind of things that motivate me to reach out to other people.
That's honestly, that's one thing I wanted to ask you, because this is 2021, and I know it's a sensitive subject nowadays, but I hate victims. I have nothing in common with people with victim mentalities. I just, I can't even get along with them very well, because everything they say is just crap to me.
Yeah.
Because everybody has an excuse, and I've seen probably more excuses from people that had it seems like the people with the most ability and the most opportunity give the most excuses as to why they haven't succeeded. They always have, they're professionals at giving excuses, and people bring up skin color.
Yeah.
Now that's an easy thing.
Yeah.
What sex they are, what sexual preference they are. I mean, there's a million things that right now, it's so popular to say, I can't succeed because of this, and the system's against me, and this is against me, and that's against me. And I feel like that's just such an easy way to say, well, now it's not me that's not a success. Exactly. It's all this, the system's against me. So now I still feel like a winner because it's not my fault. Yes. But I feel like you took personal responsibility. But what is it? What advice would you give somebody that's wanting to stop sleeping on the deep freeze at the chicken place at 16 and dreams of doing something like this, who maybe is growing up in Chicago and they think like, I'm black, I am gay, I'm whatever the challenge is? What would you tell them if they were to say, like, I can't succeed because I'm from this family, I'm this color, I'm this preference?
I looked them in the eye, I said, don't play the victim card. The victim card doesn't take you anywhere. Everybody can be a victim. But what the problem is, see, for me, I take negative things to make it positive. Now, let's backtrack a little bit. When I was growing up, my dad never knew where the kitchen is. He built the house, he
Right.
paid for the house. He didn't know where the kitchen was, because that's how the mentality was. Men don't do kitchen. They don't go to the kitchen. Men don't hold babies. If my dad hold a baby, it's a taboo.
Right.
He can't do that. So I started preparing myself since that time that I would do everything my dad never did. Okay, and so when you
that was very young, you're saying?
Exactly, yes, I say.
Was that influenced by your mother, possibly?
Yes, mostly because my mom is a very dedicated person.
Who was your biggest influencers in that
My mom.
process?
I spent a lot of time with my mom.
That's amazing.
And I spent a lot of time with my mom. And so I don't like when people use excuses for what they do. Just be yourself and do what you need to do, and don't play that card, saying, oh, poor me, I'm black, I'm white, or whatever. No,
Yeah.
It doesn't happen in my vocabulary. I see opportunity, I take that opportunity. I want to do anything and everything and I can that's possibly allowed, for me to do legally without using any excuse. I don't want somebody to give me a job because I'm black. I want you to give me a job because I am good. I know what I'm doing and that I'm determined. Even if I'm not, even if I've taken jobs before that I'm not qualified for.
Right.
And I walked in there and I take that job. I said, wow, this is a challenge. This is going to be, and I succeed. I'll tell you one quick story. When I was with Halliburton, we moved people around and I was always playing the musical chair. And my manager, Larry Keynes, I don't know if you ever knew him, he so much believed in me. Right from the first day, he set his eye on me. So when things were changing and they're moving people around, they moved me into cement. I had no idea what cement does. When I was in engineering school, we were only required to go to one cement job. And that's all I knew about it, that cement is only.
Well, you're going into an occupation where they're experts at it for years.
Exactly. So they moved me into cement, and then we got people that have been there, and I'm on top of them. I've been, in charge of them. Of course, they were not very happy. And even the manager that was there, he looked at me, he's like, we're in a meeting like this in a conference room. We started talking about something, and he said to me, you don't even speak my language as far as the cementing language is concerned. I don't know why they even brought you. And this guy, we were supposed to
Was that a fun challenge, though, for you?
Oh, my goodness. We were supposed to be friends. And so I tucked my tail in my behind, and I left the meeting. And so I went back to my office, and I said, I am up to this challenge. And I went back to him later and I said, Larry, I want to do a presentation for you and the group. in 2 weeks. And he said, are you serious? I said, yes, I want to do a presentation. And so I spent a lot of my time in the lab. Of course, Diva is a chemist and she was working in the lab. So I spent a lot of time there, and she's showing me all the chemicals and everything we do. And 2 weeks later, we're sitting like this in a big conference room. I'm doing this presentation on cementing, everything and all the stuff that he talked to me about. I said, you don't even speak my language. So when I finished that presentation, he sat back and he looked at me and said, and I quote, did you learn all that in 2 weeks? I said, you bet your life I did.
So he underestimated you.
Exactly. And I said, Larry, do you have any question? He said, it's very clear. I don't have any question. So
do you like being
challenge.
Underestimated?
Yes, I do. I like when people underestimate me and think, oh yeah, this, and then I prove myself. So that's why I tell people, do not leave any stone unturned. When you see something, do something about it.
Who was it that said, some famous entrepreneur one time said, if somebody offers you a job that you don't know how to do, accept the job and learn how to do it?
Oh, I don't know who said that, but I call that a position of incompetency. I use that all the time. I've been in positions of incompetency many times.
Happens to me every day.
They put you in a job where you have no clue,
right,
and they expect you to fail. And then all of a sudden you just excel. They're like, where did this guy come from? And I love those kind of stories, and I've done quite a few of those before. Yes, as a human being, I get worried, am I going to be able to do this? Even when I took over, started teaching here at the university, my wife said, are you going to be able to do this?
Of course.
I said, are you kidding me? So every day I come back and she's like, how did it go? I said, I just finished another show.
These challenges get easier for you too, right? When you prove to yourself you work hard enough, you can do it.
Yes, exactly. Like I said, when I walk into my classroom, I usually don't carry anything. I just go in there because everything is, all my stuff, my lectures, I already put it on the web. All my stuff are in the cloud. I walk in there and punch the button, window closed, everything, my screens drop, and I just start presenting.
Well, that's awesome. So now you're a professor, and I know you have to go actually teach this morning, so yes. I don't want to take too much of your time, but I would like you to maybe just go over briefly, and I know it's you've been doing a lot of mission work over there with education and medical back in Nigeria, but now you're really trying to start something where you can help a business for your people and educational opportunities for them. Yes. And is there anything you'd like to share with the audience? Because us as a company, we'd like to figure out a way to try to help you with that.
Okay.
And our company, thankfully, has amazing employees that will put a lot of effort. And I would like to see a way that even our customers or anybody that would be interested could help you. So what would be, how would you describe the direction you're trying to move forward in December best, December through January?
Oh, thank you very much, Levi, again, for giving me this opportunity. So December, what we're trying to do in December, first of all, we, like I mentioned to you, we have a budget of about 30,000, and a lot of, part of that has been already eliminated because of you. We really appreciate that, and we're still about maybe 18,000 behind. And so that's part of it. We're going to be doing a lot of like what we did last time, seeing people. Medicine is going to be the big one, but then at the same time, we're going to give them food. Because if we're going to talk to somebody, of course, we always talk about God. We're going to talk to them about God, but we have to feed them.
They listen to you because they know you're not just there for that.
Back in my language, I'm going to say it in my language here so you hear it. In my language, they said, "Awum biong iko piko abasi." That is, a hungry person does not listen to religion.
Right.
Okay. So I want to give them food. I want to make them whole by, spiritual, giving them those food, and then give them medicine, and then talk to them about God, and then they listen. Now, as far as what we're going to do beyond this year, beyond December, when I'm going on the plan that we're having, the plan is we want to have some sort of business where we're not giving people fish anymore. We're teaching them how to fish. And we are looking at so many options. And like I mentioned to you, I'm looking at proposals, which I will be sharing with you. But just to throw it out there, right now, some of the stuff that I'm looking at is teaching people how to sew, and also teaching, we have what is called in my culture, they call it mechanic and driver. So that means you send somebody to go and train how to be a mechanic, and then they can also be a driver. They will be like a professional driver, whatever, driving taxis.
Because in your country, not a lot of people have cars, so
No.
so your driver is the guy that takes care of the truck or the vehicle. Or
Exactly.
The van. Okay.
Exactly. So they call it mechanic and driver. And then the biggest one that we're looking at, part of the proposal that I'm exploring, is having a palm tree area where people will be cultivating this. Palm trees where we harvest oil in Nigeria. The palm also give a lot of oil. That palm, I can explain it all day. A palm tree, you could take a palm tree, take the seed, you do so many things out of that.
All right.
And you can do oil, one kind of oil out of the fresh one, and then inside of it, the hard part of it, you can generate and make a different kind of oil. There's so many type of oil you can do out of it. So we're looking at having something like that, like a farm.
And this will be on some of the property you've actually purchased.
Exactly. Yes. So we're looking at doing that in my property, and hiring people from the village to maintain that. That's one option. So once we're done,
Because a lot of them don't even have jobs, correct?
they don't have jobs. There's nothing. There's nothing there. No, they don't have jobs. So we want to have something that's going to sustain them, and they could be able to have jobs. So that's one thing we're looking at. And then we're also looking at probably giving somebody, maybe 2 or 3 people, a scholarship, that wants to go to either professional school like university, and that we see that they can come back and help somebody else.
Right.
And so all those options, I will present it to you. But those are the things that we're looking at ahead right now of doing to alleviate people of this problem of poverty.
Well, I'm excited to be a part of that in any way we can, and I'm excited that you got to come here. One last question. Who's the 3 people who are most influential to you today? That if you look back over your life, do you have 2 or 3 people that have helped mostly shape your life?
Yes, I do. As much as I would tell you that, my dad was always gone, but my dad will be number 1. You ask me why? Because my dad always told us, I still remember my dad would say, I will not be able to build you a house. I will not be able to buy you a car. I will not be able to marry a wife for you, but you need to go to school. But back at that time, I always said, well, what is he talking about? I'm not at the very bottom. Where's the money to go to school?
Right.
But when I look back at those things, he was right, because he proved himself by, remember the story from the beginning, he went from the village all the way. He walked many hundreds of miles and met with the British soldiers. They educated him.
Wow.
And he became a colonel. He retired as a colonel in the U.S. in the Nigerian army. And he turned around and helped so many of my uncles, and they were up there too with him. I'm from a military family.
Right.
Everybody went to the military. So my dad will be one of them. And then the other person, that guy, I told you right there.
Elon Musk?
Yes.
That's badass.
He's so much impressed me, and I like people that come from nothing, that do something, and they so much inspire me. And I just want to be like that, and not just be, I want to be able to help people.
Right.
And then I know you said people, but of course, if I don't say people, if I wanted to start on top, I would say first of all is God. God is number 1, and that. So God, my dad.
Well, it shows by the way your life's been. So
yes.
Well, I appreciate it. Is there anything you have for us, or anything questions I should have asked that I didn't?
Well, I think you asked a lot of good questions. But one thing that I would like to say is I just want to say that I really thank you. And in my language, they said, I don't know how to thank you. When somebody said, I don't know how to thank you, what they mean is I am overjoyed. I to the point that I cannot express my feeling. So I want to tell you, I really appreciate.
Oh no, we're honored to work with somebody like you. It's exciting to see.
So thank you so much for all you've done. And if you ever need anything else or want to talk, let me know. I'm always available to give you answer any question that you need. That's fine.
I'm excited, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you.